The classroom is my sanctuary. It's a relatively tiny, maybe even microscopic, part of the universe, but it's also immense beyond words. It's a transcendental, multidimensional time machine that allows the people within to travel to the past and to the future, to explore worlds both real and imaginary, and to read minds and examine possibilities. It's the one place where I feel like I have almost total control, and for the past few months, it was taken away from me. A very wise 8th grader wrote the following words when reflecting on the whole virtual learning scenario that we've all been coping with, and they hit me hard. A class isn't only a teacher, it's also the kids inside it, and the art on the walls, and the desks and everything you see and hear when you walk into a room. This distinction has been made very real for me during this experience. How does a teacher maintain a class without having a physical classroom? How does a teacher preserve a sense of community when the community is scattered and separated? I think all of us did the best that we could, but we all realized that it was never going to be as good as it should have been. Which was my biggest struggle, knowing that whatever I did, no matter how hard I tried, or what tricks I pulled out of my sleeve, it wasn't going to be as good as it should have been. Students could do group work, but they couldn't really be together in their groups. They could listen to lessons and even participate to some degree, but there was always a barrier standing in the way of spontaneity. They could complete assignments and receive feedback, but there was always a little bit of extra distance that made everything seem like it was hovering behind the horizon. I've learned that the virtual classroom is a pale imitation of real life. In a virtual classroom, the vibrance of color and the subtlety of shading is either missing or muted. The spontaneity of laughter, the observations and realizations and sidebars that provoke alternative ways of thinking and extensions that go beyond the obvious, all of these disappear. There's always an obstacle standing in the way. It's the tiny little time lag between delivery and reception that creates a disconnect in our brains. It's the momentary pause that leads to a shift of focus when we're staring at a screen rather than interacting in real time. It's the amplified self-awareness that inhibits you from being your true self when you constantly see your image on the screen and hear your voice outside your inner ear. It's the knowledge that your words and expressions are being recorded and preserved, rather than being observed in the moment and dissipating into the ether. And yet, in spite of all these difficulties and obstacles and realizations, we persevered. We taught, we corrected, we retaught, we listened, we comforted. We adjusted and maneuvered and tried again. We worried and fretted and encouraged and cajoled and persuaded and praised. We did the best we could. We enjoyed tiny successes and witnessed aha moments, and sighed with frustration and squinted from eye strain, and took occasional stretch breaks where we went outside just to breathe, to slow down and experience the moment in its entirety, then let it go as we exhaled. And after these brief pauses, we got back to it. We did our best to make the experience as authentic and meaningful and powerful as we possibly could. We embraced Voltaire's concept that perfect is the enemy of the good, and did the best we could. We squashed doubts and lifted spirits and provided structure and guidance when needed. We sent emails and made phone calls and listened and explained and wished upon a star. We did the best we could. And for the most part, so did the kids. They tuned in and they observed and they listened and wrote and pondered and wondered and hoped for a return to what used to be. We all did the best we could in a difficult time, and what more can you ask? And maybe, because of what we are all going through collectively, we're developing a deeper appreciation for the magic that can exist in a classroom. Because a class is more than a teacher. It's also the kids inside it. It's the art on the walls. It's everything you see and hear when you walk into the room. And it's what we all need to get back to as soon as it's safe to do so. Hopefully, that's sometime soon.